There's a lot of talk last night about Trump, and we'll get to Trump in just a second. But what we actually saw was Hillaryism on the ballot without Hillary. So you had a bunch of candidates who ran campaigns very similar to Hillary Clinton's, but they weren't as nasty and off-putting as Hillary Clinton. Ralph Northam ran a pretty nasty, low-down campaign accusing Ed Gillespie of racism and bigotry. He had a Latino Victory Caucus put out that ad that I showed you guys, what I think is the worst ad in American political history, showing a Gillespie truck trying to run down minority children. And then Northam had the gall to go out there and say that Virginia rejected hatred and bigotry. Here's Ralph Northam, the new governor of the state of Virginia.
Today, Virginians have answered and have spoken. Virginia has told us to end the divisiveness, that we will not condone hatred and bigotry, and to end the politics that have torn this country apart. I want to let you know that in Virginia, it's going to take a doctor to heal our differences.
He, of course, is a doctor, so that means that, okay, so in any case, this is sheer nonsense, the idea that they rejected hatred and bigotry, that if Ed Gillespie had won, then people in Confederate flag trucks were going to be running down children. And then they say that they're uniting. Then they say they're uniting. He's running Hillary's campaign, right? This is what Hillary said about deplorables. He's running Hillary's campaign in an off-year election, and he's doing it without Hillary's face. And this makes a big difference. It demonstrates how unpopular Hillary Clinton was. Okay, same thing was happening over in New Jersey. The guy named Phil Murphy is the new governor over in New Jersey, replacing Chris Christie when Christie's term is up, and he's doing the same thing. We have a new unity, right? Again, this is Hillaryism without Hillary.
Tonight, we declare the days of division are over. We will move forward together. This is exactly who we are, New Jersey. We have each other's backs. To believe in each of us is to believe in all of us.
Okay, so again, they're going to do this whole unity routine, running the Hillary campaign without Hillary Clinton, and they can win on that. Okay, it's not the Republicans' agenda was radically, greenlit over the past 8 years. It was that they were running against Barack Obama. Well, now Democrats get to run against Donald Trump, and they get to do so without Hillary Clinton's face at the head of their ticket. That makes a very, very large difference. So one of the questions that's being asked is basically, did Gillespie fight hard enough? So in defense of Trump, what I'm saying here is that Trump's unpopularity definitely hurts people down ballot, that it drives Democrats to the polls in a way it doesn't drive Republicans to the polls, that Trump's approval rating is historically awful. Again, that ABC News exit polling showed, quote, voters by a 2-to-1 margin said they were casting their ballot to show opposition to Trump rather than support for him. In New Jersey, that margin was 3-to-1. People may thrill to Trump's cultural warfare on the right, but it also drives a bunch of people on the left to the polls. So this is the case that I'm making, that some of this has to do with Trump. Not all of it has to do with Trump, but some of it does. A lot of people on the Trump side are saying, no. The reason that Gillespie lost is because he wasn't Trumpkin enough, right? This is always, if your theory is that Trump is God, King, Emperor, then everything bad that happens, there's a new hypothesis that's been created, okay? The hypothesis that's been created is that when someone wins, it's because they were warm to Trump, and when someone loses, it's because they weren't warm enough to Trump. Right? It's never about the reality, because Gillespie basically ran a very Trumpian campaign. He didn't openly campaign with Trump. If he had openly campaigned with Trump, he would have lost worse in the D.C. exurbs up in northern Virginia. He won exactly the same percentage that Trump won in the state. The difference is the Democrats showed up to vote for Democrats this time, and so Gillespie won 45%, so did Trump. Bottom line is, Gillespie ends up losing by 10, Trump ends up losing by 5. That's because all the Democrats showed up to vote. In fact, by polls, 41% of people who voted yesterday in Virginia were Democrats. Only 31% said they were Republicans. So what the Trumpian people have been saying is, well, Gillespie lost because he didn't fight hard enough. If he'd only had a little more Trump in him, then he would have won. And to support this, they say, look at the Democrats. They were calling him a racist and a bigot, and Gillespie didn't fight back hard enough on that. They point to people like Terry McAuliffe, the current governor of the state of Virginia, who definitely wants to run for president. Here's McAuliffe, ripping into Gillespie.
I'm predicting we're going to win all 3 statewide, a bunch of House of Delegates. It's been a great race. Ralph Northam is going to be the next governor. Everybody is happy in the state. As you just say, we're a safe state, a record amount of economic investment. And Ed Gillespie has run really a racist, bigoted campaign, horrible ads. Donald Trump today is now doing robocalls. Donald Trump's at 31% in Virginia. We're going to reject that. And we are going to move forward as a Commonwealth, and Ralph is going to be the next governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
So McAuliffe's saying that he ran a racist, bigoted campaign. What he's talking about is Gillespie ran an ad saying that Ralph Northam backed sanctuary cities, and he linked that to MS-13. Okay, that's not a racist ad. That's a typical political ad. Gillespie, well, when people say Gillespie is a milquetoast, that he's an establishment guy, what they really mean is that he's not Trumpian in the way that he fights back. I would like him to be a bit more Trumpian in the way that he fights back, by the way. Here's Gillespie, for example, saying last night that Ralph Northam is a good man. Yeah, a good man who called him a racist and a bigot.
As I said throughout the course of this campaign, Governor-elect Northam is a good man, and I appreciate his service to our country and our Commonwealth, and I wish him nothing but the best success as our 73rd governor, and told him that if I could be helpful to him in making our Commonwealth better, that I would be happy to do anything I could in that regard.
So there are a lot of people who are saying, well, this sort of conciliatory show by Gillespie demonstrates why he lost. I think there is something to that. I think Gillespie should fight back harder. It's one of the things I always appreciated about President Trump, even when I wasn't supporting him. The fact is that I think Trump does fight back. I think he fights back on things that are stupid, and I think he fights back on things that are not stupid. Gillespie did not fight back nearly as hard as he should have on things like that Latino victory ad. But is that why Gillespie lost? It doesn't explain why Republicans got shellacked down ballot. It doesn't explain why they lost 2 seats in Georgia. It doesn't explain why they lost the Washington State Senate. It doesn't explain why the state of Maine just voted to increase Medicare. It doesn't explain any of those things. So I don't quite buy that. But this is going to be the hypothesis of people defending Trump, is that the reason that Gillespie lost is because he didn't hug Trump hard enough. And this is actually a crucial distinction. This is a crucial question. Should Republican candidates hug Trump really hard, or should they try and distance themselves, or should they try to straddle that line? I think the only thing they can do is try to straddle the line, because if you hug Trump really hard, you are driving Democrats to the polls. If you do not hug Trump really hard, then Trump could actually crap all over you, which, as you will see, Trump did to Gillespie, or the Trump base could decide that they are going to turn on you because you are not supportive enough of Trump. This is the problem with cults of personality, is that if you support Trump so much that you're willing to not go out and vote for a typical Republican because they weren't nice to Trump, then you are undercutting Trump's own ability to govern. It's just foolishness. But that means that a lot of Republicans are caught between a rock and a hard place. They don't want to hug Trump because if they hug Trump, they lose suburban soccer moms. And if they don't hug Trump, then Trump craps all over them and the base deserts them. This is a serious problem. Laura Ingraham last night, she was suggesting what really should have happened here is Gillespie should have just hugged Trump really hard. And this is going to be the going line that more you're going to see more and more. I'm going to discuss Trumpism in just a second. But first, Trump personally, the typical media line is, because the entire politics now revolves around Trump, people like Laura Ingraham and even Chris Matthews are saying Gillespie's big mistake is that he didn't hug Trump hard enough. Here's Ingraham.
Those big suburban counties around Washington, D.C., just right over there, went even more for Northam than they did for Hillary, which I think
But what does that tell you? That tells you a populist conservative like Trump, who has a strong personality and a strong message, did do better. He didn't spend a lot of time campaigning in Virginia, Donald Trump. And Ed Gillespie tried to do this dance that I'm not going to campaign with Trump, but he'll tweet for me and he'll do a last-minute robocall. I think in the end that came off as desperate.
Okay, so she's saying that it was too little too late, right? That he was trying to embrace Trump. Yeah, he was trying to be more like Trump. But it was too desperate, right? He wasn't authentic. It didn't really come off. That was really the big problem here. The reason that Donald Trump did better than Gillespie in the northern suburbs is because Hillary Clinton was on the ballot. It's about Hillary, not about Trump. It's so funny. Whenever it comes to Hillary being a tool to be used, there are a lot of hosts who will use Hillary as a tool when they wish to misdirect from Trump. Okay, this is a case where they are using Trump to misdirect from Hillary. The reality is Democrats did not show up because of Hillary. End of story. Okay, Chris Matthews, though, saying the same thing. Gillespie pretended to be a Trumpster and he couldn't pull it off. He just wasn't authentic enough. Get up in the morning, come on to the show. Come on in here, talk about Gillespie. Who's this guy? Go.
I think Democrats should have a morale boost like they've never had tonight, but they have to say, now we got to get out there and sell something. Yep. We got to sell something, whether it's a better health care program, a jobs program, or something. I think they got to be – that's just me talking. I think it's just a good night for the Democrats. I don't want to take any of the joy out of it. They beat the hell out of this guy who pretended to be a Trumpster. Ed Gillespie is a Washington lobbyist. He's way down knee-deep or head-deep in the swamp. He's part of the problem Trump ran against.
Okay, so now this is the typical line. Matthews tends to be more popular. So again, Ingraham and Matthews both making the case that if Gillespie had been more like Trump, then maybe he would have won. No. Okay, that's just the data do not show this. So what's the next line of defense for a lot of the people who are advocates of Trump, who want to suggest that what happened in Virginia has nothing to do with Trump? The next line of defense, the first line of defense was, again, there are 3 lines of defense. Line of defense number 1 was Virginia was already moving to the left. True. It only goes so far, but true. Second line of defense, Gillespie, if he had been more like Trump, he would have done better. Very, very dubious. And final line of defense is that Trumpism requires Trump, right? He wasn't Trumpist enough, right? It wasn't just that Gillespie didn't embrace Trump, he didn't embrace Trumpism. He didn't embrace the nationalist populist movement, right? This is the line that Steve Bannon is using now. Is he's saying that, like, the way that they ran their headline over at Breitbart last night is they said that the swamp thing, Gillespie was defeated. 5 seconds ago, Bannon was trying to campaign for Gillespie, saying that he was attempting to drain the swamp. So they're flipping on that one as well. So
to end the divisiveness, that we will not condone hatred and bigotry, and to end the politics that have torn this country apart.
Ran a pretty nasty, low-down campaign accusing Ed Gillespie of racism and bigotry. He had a Latino Victory Caucus put out that ad that I showed you guys, what I think is the worst ad in American political history, showing a Gillespie truck trying to run down minority children. And then
I want to let you know that in Virginia, it's going to take a doctor to heal our differences.
He, of course, is a doctor. So that means that there's a lot of talk last night about Trump, and we'll get to Trump in just a second. But what we actually saw was Hillaryism on the ballot without Hillary. So you had a bunch of candidates who ran campaigns very similar to Hillary Clinton's, but they weren't as nasty and off-putting as Hillary Clinton. Ralph Northam had the gall to go out there and say that Virginia rejected hatred and bigotry. Here's Ralph Northam, the new governor of the state of Virginia.
Today, Virginians have answered and have spoken. Virginia has told us